Worship Him who made the sky and the seas. Worship Him who made the stars and the trees. Worship Him who made the mountains high. Worship Him who made the clouds on high. Worship Him who made the sky, the seas. Worship Him who made the stars and the trees. Worship Him who made the mountains high. Worship Him who made the clouds on high. He commands the waves to be still, commands the winds to hold still, commands the sun to shine so bright. He commands the stars to shine at night. The birds sing melodies worthy of praise. The waves sing harmonies. Glory, hallelujah, glory and honor to the Creator. The first day He said, let there be light. The next day He moved the waters and He formed the sky. The third day He made the flowers and the trees. The fourth day He made the moon and stars that we see. The fifth day He made the fish in the sea, the beast on the land, the birds in the air. The sixth day He said, let us make man in our likeness. The Sabbath day, Sabbath, seventh day, Sabbath day, Sabbath, day of rest, Sabbath day, Sabbath, sanctified, Sabbath day, Sabbath, needfulness, Sabbath, Sabbath, blessed day, holy day, glory and honor to the Creator. Glory and honor to the Creator.
Lochani, my name is Mudinda Mbevana. Welcome to the Chosen Generation. Today's show is really about love, a love that is not self-seeking, a love that causes you and me to reimagine our space. Our church is designed to accommodate people with special needs. Our plans and programs even structured to show that we care. Do we even know what people with special needs go through on a daily basis? Well, joining me today, I have a few guests who are going to help us unpack some of these questions and go even deeper. We'd like to encourage our viewers at home to share their comments on the issue. The hashtag to use is on your screen right now, hashtag TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Maybe you can share your story with us. My guests who are here today, I'm going to introduce them to you. The first guest goes by the name Bekezele Wonga. We also have Mam Tuli Tamene, and we have Frank Marozwa. We also have the privilege of having a sign language interpreter with us whose name is Tato Svanda. Right, let's get into the conversation.
I think the 7th day does cater for people with disability. We've got a lot of programs that involve them. We've got a lot of programs that they can be part of them. We've got a lot of activities that they can do. So I think the church does cater for them. But, well, we can do more. We can do more, implement more systems and more activities.
Okay, it's only now we have had conversations about that. In the past I had never even had a conversation about it. I've never seen a church with like a ramp for the wheelchair and so on. Like I had never seen it. I had never actually seen a lot of disabled people come into church. It's only recently we have had that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I once saw there was a program at church about disability and stuff like that. I think there are, but we are not. What do I say? We are not there, like taking care of them, like being there all the time. But I think there is a department that caters for that, but we are not there as in to take them exactly to be with them in the church.
Right. Maybe we can start with the first question. I'll start with you, Bekezel. Can you share your story about your experience, how it was and so forth, so that people can get context to the show, having a child who's got special needs and so forth?
All right. Thank you so much for the question.
Yeah.
First, it was the realization that I have lost an able-bodied child. Okay. A child with no physical or cognitive fallouts. It came as a loss. I went through all the stages of grief after I had my son. In fact, the whole process. He was born with cerebral palsy, which we'll call CP. He was a spastic quad, and he lived up until he was almost 17 years. And I had to learn. By
the way, condolences for your loss.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I had to learn a lot of things. I decided I needed to understand my son's condition, so that I could be able to take care of him. I had to pray. I decided I needed God to guide me. I prayed a lot. I drew a lot of strength from God's word because that was the only way. I realized that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to raise him till the age that I could, or the age that I was actually able to raise him to. Because when he was born, doctors told us he wouldn't even live to see 10 years. But he went way beyond that, So it was just all the grace of the Lord. And he provided for us along the way. I mean, the way we had a medical aid, which most people don't have. But for us, we counted it as a blessing. There were numerous doctor's visits. There were a lot of therapy appointments that we had to go through because of his condition, And at some point in time, as a parent, because you realize your child cannot stand up for himself, he cannot speak for himself, then you decide, look, I'm going to stand my ground, advocate for this young man, and be his voice. When people they look as if, or they pretend as if he is not there, I'm going to stand and say, hello, there is this young man, So I had to just do that for him,
just sorry to interrupt there. When you said the words that the birth of your son was a loss in the birth, that I mean, I'm even shaking.
It's
It
because
makes
I
me so
didn't
emotional.
expect that.
Yes,
You know, as a young mom, first time mom, I expected, you know, that little one with 10 toes, 10 feet, everything normal, as we would say. And then there it is, something completely different.
Wow.
But you just have to embrace it.
Well, I've never seen it like that. What a perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe I can bring you in here, Sis Thuli. Are stories like this maybe some of the reasons that encourage you to work with people with special needs?
So I'm saying I'm very encouraged by a mother who stands up for their son, because it is mothers like this that we need, you know, but it's not everyone, according to their personalities, who's able to fight for their children when they realize that they have a child with special needs. And the reason why I became an advocate, it was because it's born from pain. You know, the pain that she went through, the pain that I've been through, that we still go through, because our children are discriminated against all the time, everywhere you go. And some parents, they end up hiding their children. So you'll find that a person goes to church, for instance, or go to a shopping mall, they rush in, they rush out, because they have a child that they want to hide from you, because they know that you will discriminate against them. So the work that we do for people with special needs is to say to the parents, it's the time for hiding your child is over, because it's from exposing our children so that other parents also can come out and be able to stand up for their children, to stand up for the rights of their children. Like she pointed out, to say she became the voice of her child, because there's no one who's going to speak for your child. So my child was born deaf. And this is another group that is so marginalized, because they speak a different language.
Right.
So nobody wants to learn it. Nobody wants to hear them. In fact, they are treated as people who are just invisible.
I think on the point that you just raised, Frank, as a youth leader, when you hear these things, we really need to, there's something that we must do as leaders. And first thing that we must look at is addressing the attitudes that people have to people with special needs. What are your ideas on that? I have got like 3 questions. I've got a follow-up. I also want you to speak about how we need to reimagine the infrastructure of our churches, specifically for those who have special needs. Maybe if you can share a few ideas on the things that really need to change, like right now.
Yes, thank you for that question, Dinda. You know, the interesting thing is that as far back as 2008 in May, the government led in this particular perspective and changing the paradigm, because they included in the National Building Regulations and Building Standards new regulations, what we call now Part S, you know, which deals with specific requirements for designs for people with special needs. So that ranges through the whole category. The people are following behind, but I'm glad the government, as the highest body in the country, has led in that direction. It is so fundamental in regards to our country. Because even now, when you do a design, whether it's a building design, whatever, commercial, industrial, you need to factor in these requirements. Otherwise, your plans will not be approved. As a church now, we need to come back and say, okay, we have existing facilities or buildings that did not cater for these needs. And we need to redesign and reshape these spaces to cater for all these people. Because even in the constitution, by the way, of the country, we need to have equal access for every person for any building. So that's how deep it is in terms of the regulations and even the constitution of the country.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That I wish the church was the one who was leading in this regard, instead of us having to rely on the state. But I think let's leave it there for now. We'll go to a break and maybe go deeper into this issue. To our viewers at home, you're still watching The Chosen Generation. Please share your ideas, your stories, and your experiences. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what your story is. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are still watching The Chosen Generation. Before the break, we, just did the groundwork on the issue of people with special needs, and we're going to go a bit deeper in this segment. And we encourage you at home to share your views with us. The hashtag is still TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Now, back to the issue at hand. Maybe I can bring you in again, Begezel. Did the church cater for your child with special needs? And not only the physical needs in terms of access, but even the spiritual needs. Was there a strategy and a plan for your child?
A simple, answer to that would be not quite, but one or two teachers did try. As parents, we would not, he was in class, but as parents, we would participate in the other activities. So he would go to one of the kids' classes, the kindergarten class. I loved putting him in that class because there's the noise, there's the music, and he enjoyed that, the noise that the little ones make and the music, So that was good for him. I was happy that he was there. But I had to bring in the caregiver. If the caregiver was not there, then no one knew how to deal with him. So it was either I have to be there, or if I can't, then my child misses out. Also with my son, for you to build him spiritually, you also had to reach him. So the accessibility of the church itself comes into play. Okay. My church is not that accessible. I must say he was able to enter on his wheelchair through the main entrance, but that was about it. I, as a parent, had to figure out a place where I could place my child for his nappy changing and for his feeding, because I needed privacy for that. No one ever asked me about that. And things like the bathroom as well, I had to make a plan for that, for him. And then also with the class, I remember one time there was a teacher that just decided that they were going to have a class in a space where to access it, you have to go down a flight of stairs. Obviously, they did not think of my son. Wow. So I had to bring it up and say, how do you think Luki's gonna get down there now on his wheelchair? And it was sorted. And I remember once one teacher had a bright idea of actually bringing the Sabbath school home, which was nice for my son, and he enjoyed that.
Wow, that's very interesting. Mam Tuli, how can we, let me say, people just didn't know or they were not aware. And that's why these things happen, just to be on the good side. Okay. How then can we raise awareness about these issues, particularly in the church? And maybe if you can give some ideas on how we should structure that awareness. What are the things that they must look at, and so forth and so forth. Okay.
So firstly, I'm just going to speak in the context of church. The first thing that we need to do, like Frank referred to access. The first thing, especially for people who are visiting, have you heard stories where a person says, God guided me to come to this church. There are people that come and we don't know and we didn't invite them, but the Holy Spirit invites them. So if it's a parent with a child with a special need, or a person already with a special need, the access is very important. In fact, signs and signage is very important, because from the outside of the church, a person on a wheelchair is able to see the sign that there is a demarcated parking space.
Okay.
If you do not have that, you are actually communicating to people with special needs that you don't have room for you
you're
here.
not supposed to be
So
here.
access and signage is very, very important, because they'll come, they'll never come back. You know, that's the first thing on the outside. And then ramps, things like ramps. Some churches will do a slapdash work. They just, out of guilt, maybe they do a ramp, but there's no rails. How does a person who is walking on crutches hold on to? You need to hold on to something. So that's a visible access a thing that you can put to show that we are actually a friendly church to people with disability. Now, inside the church, you need to have a disability toilet, like what she's just referred to. That there was, because there's no disability toilet, the toilet is too small. A person with disability then is disabled by the fact that you did not provide these easy access things that are needing
Double
there.
disability.
So then, yes, then we want to pity them and we want to pick them up. We, you know, now because you're feeling so guilty. But had you done it easy for them, enable them to be independently accessing the church, then there wouldn't be any need for us to then, you know, go like that. So it's things like that. And when you come into the church as well, you know, your aisle, the size of the aisle needs to be wide enough to accommodate a wheelchair. The stage, if for instance some churches have got a pulpit, you go up the pulpit, there's steps, there's no ramp. So what are you saying? Are you saying a person who has a disability, a physical disability, you are not allowed to preach?
Yeah.
You know, you are already communicating that without saying anything, but just your structure.
There's a lot that needs to be changed. I think that's a great place to segue into a break. And we'd like to invite our viewers to continue this conversation with us on TCG, on SID. Let us know what your experience are. Maybe you can even share ideas on what else we can do to address this issue. Join us after the break. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still discussing the issue of people with special needs and looking at, you know, introspecting a bit about this issue. I'd like to encourage you to continue with your ideas and views on the hashtag TCG on SID. Continue to share with us what you think. Now, back to my guests. We are nearing the end of the show, so Sis Thuli, there'll be business meetings and church boards and conferences who watch this show and they'll want to consult you, maybe to come to a meeting. How can they reach you so that you can share some ideas on the things that you were saying earlier on in the show?
So my email address is thulimahlazitha at gmail.com. thulimahlazitha at gmail.com. That's how I can be contacted. Yes.
All right. There you've heard it. If you need to speak to her, that's the email address you can use. Frank, maybe as a leader, you can help us with this last question. Yes. How can we make sure that people with special needs really don't feel like they're a burden to us? How can they feel welcome and part of our families in church and wherever in society?
So from a leadership perspective, we need to be deliberate in all our planning of events. If you are going to plan an event, make sure you have an interpreter that will cater, that shows that you are being inclusive in what you are doing. You also need to plan in advance and make it a deliberate action. Let's have people that are responsible in leadership for special needs. Every church board, every conference event, every independent ministry must have someone who's responsible for special needs, so that when we plan all our events, we include these people, even in leadership as well. I'm glad that, for example, the conference is appointed someone who's looking at that. They are cascading it down to the local churches. The response may not be good, but at least there is that deliberate action. It will pay off as time goes on.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's a good place to put this show to an end. And I'd like to thank you, really, to appreciate you for using yourselves as vessels to communicate this urgent message to our people at home. And to our viewers at home, I would like to thank you for allowing us into your homes. And we hope that you will be with us again next week. And because you have stayed until the end of the show, we have a special surprise for you at the end of the show. Maybe a final word from me. The other day, Jesus was speaking and he said, when you plan celebrations, invite the poor, invite the cripple, invite the lame, and invite the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you. And it's my plea that we emulate this principle of love from the one who saves, who sanctifies, and satisfies. We'd like to encourage our viewers at home to continue the conversation on TCG, on SID. Let us know what you think. We hope to see you next week. Goodbye.
Wena Nkosi ophezulu, wena sibhekelela njalo, siqinise thina bantu bakho asilutho nje. Gekho omunyonga siphibo sitho njengawe Nkosi. Oyehlisa umoya wakho Nkosi yami, sifuna awena nomo yoigcwele. Yehlisa umoya wakho Nkosi yami, sifuna